Was I wrong? Sister-in-law ruined my $3,000 wedding dress as a Halloween costume. Now she can't afford college. I never thought a piece of fabric could tear apart a family, but here I am. -1 month later. Still dealing with the fallout from what my sister-in-law did to my wedding dress. Half the family thinks I'm a vindictive monster, the other half supports my husband's decision to freeze her college fund. And I'm stuck in the middle wondering if we went too far or if we didn't go far enough. Let me tell you the whole story. And you can decide for yourself whether I was wrong to let my husband take such drastic action. My husband Mark and I got married 2 years ago in what I can only describe as my dream wedding. I had been planning and saving for this day since I was a teenager, carefully putting aside money from part-time jobs throughout college and my first few years of working. The centerpiece of everything was my wedding dress. A custom-made gown that cost me $3,000. I know that sounds like a lot, and trust me, it was a huge expense for someone just starting their career, but it was absolutely worth every penny. The dress was beyond beautiful. It was a classic aligned silhouette with intricate beadwork and embroidery that took the seamstress over 6 months to complete. The bodice was fitted with delicate lace appliques, and the skirt flowed into a subtle train that was just the right length for our venue. The entire dress was made from silk du peony with hand-sewn pearls and crystals scattered throughout the design. It fit me perfectly, like it had been designed specifically for my body. Which of course it had been. I felt like an absolute princess wearing it, and the photos from our wedding day showed just how radiant and happy I was in that dress. After the wedding, I had the dress professionally cleaned and preserved in one of those special archival boxes. I kept it in our bedroom closet, not because I planned to wear it again, but because it held such sentimental value. I thought maybe someday I'd have a daughter who might want to wear it, or at least incorporate elements of it into her own wedding dress. Even if that never happened, it was a tangible reminder of the happiest day of my life, and I treasured it. Mark's younger sister Jessica was 18 at the time of our wedding and about to start her freshman year of college. She's always been what you might call a free spirit, the kind of person who does whatever she wants without really considering the consequences. She's also been somewhat spoiled by Mark's parents, who have always bailed her out of trouble and made excuses for her behavior. Mark himself has contributed to this dynamic, always playing the protective big brother and helping Jessica out of whatever mess she's gotten herself into. Jessica had always been fascinated by my wedding dress. Every time she came to visit, she'd ask to see it, and I'd sometimes take it out of the preservation box to show her. She would run her fingers over the beadwork and talk about how amazing it must have felt to wear something so beautiful. I was flattered by her interest and happy to share something that meant so much to me. Looking back, I should have recognized that her fascination might become problematic, but at the time it just seemed like innocent admiration. The incident happened this past Halloween. Jessica was home from college for fall break, and she had been invited to what she described as the biggest party of the year at her friend's house. She had been talking about this party for weeks, stressing about what costume to wear and how to make a good impression on some guy she was interested in. She had initially planned to dress up as a fairy or something similar, but apparently changed her mind at the last minute. Mark and I were out of town that weekend, visiting my parents about 4 hours away. We had left Friday evening and weren't planning to return until Sunday afternoon. Jessica knew we were gone because Mark had mentioned it to his parents, and they had told Jessica she could stay at our house instead of driving back and forth to her dorm. We were fine with this arrangement since Jessica had stayed at our place several times before without any issues. What we didn't know was that Jessica had decided to borrow my wedding dress for her Halloween costume. She later claimed that she had originally planned to ask permission but couldn't reach us on our phones. This is complete nonsense because both Mark and I had our phones with us all weekend, and she never tried to call or text either of us. She also could have asked Mark's parents to contact us if it had been an emergency. The truth is, she knew we would have said no, so she decided to take the dress without permission and deal with the consequences later. Jessica went into our bedroom, opened the preservation box, and removed my wedding dress. She then proceeded to alter it for her Halloween costume, cutting off most of the train to make it shorter and apparently using some kind of fabric paint or markers to add what she called spooky elements to the design. She turned my elegant wedding gown into what she described as a zombie bride costume, complete with fake blood stains and deliberately distressed areas. But the alterations were just the beginning of the nightmare. Jessica wore my dress to the party, where she proceeded to drink heavily and engage in the kind of reckless behavior you might expect from a drunk teenager at a college party. According to several witnesses we spoke to later, she was dancing wildly, climbing on furniture, and generally treating the dress like a disposable costume rather than a precious heirloom worth thousands of dollars. At some point during the evening, someone spilled an entire bottle of red wine directly onto the front of the dress. Instead of leaving the party immediately to try to treat the stain, Jessica continued partying for several more hours, allowing the wine to set permanently into the silk fabric. She also apparently got into some kind of altercation with another partygoer that resulted in a significant tear in the bodice area, destroying much of the delicate beadwork that had taken months to complete. By the end of the night, my beautiful wedding dress was completely destroyed. It was soaked with wine, beer, and various other substances, torn in multiple places, and covered in mud and dirt from Jessica's drunken adventures. She managed to get herself home somehow. But instead of immediately telling us what had happened, she tried to hide the evidence. When Mark and I returned home on Sunday afternoon, Jessica was gone, having fled back to her dorm early that morning. The destroyed dress was stuffed into a garbage bag and shoved into the back of our laundry room, as if Jessica had hoped we wouldn't notice it was missing until she could figure out how to fix the situation. Of course, this plan was doomed to fail because the dress was completely beyond repair. I discovered the dress when I was doing laundry that evening. I opened the garbage bag thinking it was just dirty clothes, and nearly collapsed when I saw what was inside. My beautiful, irreplaceable wedding dress had been turned into a ruined, stinking mess. The wine stains had set into permanent dark blotches across the bodice and skirt, the beadwork was largely destroyed, and there were tears and holes throughout the fabric. The smell was absolutely horrible, a combination of alcohol, sweat, and various other party-related odors that had soaked into the silk. I started crying immediately, not just because of the financial loss, but because of what that dress represented. It wasn't just an expensive piece of clothing. It was a symbol of the happiest day of my life, a tangible connection to my wedding day and all the joy and love I had felt wearing it. Seeing it destroyed felt like Jessica had deliberately attacked one of my most precious memories. Mark's reaction was even stronger than mine. When he saw the dress, he was absolutely furious in a way I had never seen before. He immediately tried calling Jessica, but she had turned off her phone and was avoiding all contact. We then called his parents, who were initially skeptical about the extent of the damage until Mark sent them photos of the ruined dress. Even they were shocked by what Jessica had done. We spent that entire week trying to reach Jessica and get some kind of explanation or apology for what had happened. She finally answered her phone on Friday, but instead of showing remorse, she was defensive and dismissive. She claimed that she had planned to clean the dress and return it without us ever knowing, and seemed genuinely surprised that we were so upset about what she called just a few stains and tears. She offered to pay for dry cleaning completely, oblivious to the fact that the dress was beyond any kind of repair. When we explained that the dress had cost $3,000 and was now completely ruined, Jessica's attitude shifted from dismissive to hostile. She accused us of being materialistic and caring more about money than family relationships. She said that if we had really loved her, we would forgive her mistake and move on without making such a big deal about just a dress. She also claimed that we were partially responsible because we had left it lying around where anyone could take it, completely ignoring the fact that it had been stored in our private bedroom in a sealed preservation box. Mark tried to reason with his sister, explaining that the issue wasn't just about money but about respect and trust. He pointed out that she had entered our private bedroom without permission, taken something extremely valuable and sentimental, and then destroyed it through her reckless behavior. He also emphasized that her refusal to take responsibility or show genuine remorse was making the situation much worse. Jessica's response was to hang up on us and continue avoiding our calls. Through Mark's parents, we learned that she was telling everyone at school that we were trying to ruin her life over an old dress and that we were being completely unreasonable. She apparently expected the whole thing to blow over without any consequences for her actions. That's when Mark made the decision that has caused so much family drama. Jessica's college education was being funded through a combination of her parents' savings and a fund that Mark had been contributing to since she was born. Mark had always been very generous with his sister, often giving her money for expenses and helping pay for things like her car, textbooks, and living expenses. The fund he had created for her education contained over $15,000 that he had saved specifically for her college costs. After Jessica refused to take responsibility for destroying my dress or make any effort to compensate us for the loss, Mark decided to freeze her access to the education fund. He called the bank where the fund was held and put a hold on all withdrawals, effectively cutting off Jessica's primary source of college funding. He told his parents that the freeze would remain in place until Jessica paid us back for the full value of the dress and showed genuine remorse for her actions. The family explosion that followed was immediate and intense. Jessica called Mark screaming and crying, saying that he was ruining her education and her future over a stupid dress. His parents were furious, arguing that the punishment was way too severe for what they still considered a teenage mistake. They accused Mark of being vindictive and destroying Jessica's college career to satisfy his wife's material desires. Other family members quickly took sides in the conflict. Some supported Mark's decision, arguing that Jessica needed to learn that actions have consequences and that destroying someone's property requires making proper restitution. Others felt that freezing her college fund was too harsh and that we should have just accepted her apology and moved on. The divide has created tension at every family gathering since then. Jessica's first semester grades suffered significantly after the funding was cut off. She had to get a part-time job to pay for basic expenses, and the stress of working while going to school full-time affected her academic performance. She also had to move out of her nice dorm room and into cheaper housing off campus. Her parents helped as much as they could, but they couldn't cover all of her expenses without Mark's contribution to the fund. Throughout all of this, Jessica has maintained that she did nothing wrong and that our reaction was completely disproportionate. She has never offered a genuine apology or acknowledged the sentimental value of what she destroyed. Instead, she continues to characterize the incident as a minor accident that we've blown out of proportion. She's also started telling people that the dress only cost a few $100s and that we're lying about the $3,000 price tag to make her look worse. The situation has put a tremendous strain on Mark's relationship with his family. His parents blame me for influencing their son to take such harsh action against his sister. They've suggested that I should be more forgiving and understanding since Jessica is just a young girl who made a mistake. They've also hinted that I care more about material possessions than family relationships, which is incredibly hurtful given how much thought and love went into choosing that dress. Mark, to his credit, has stood by his decision despite the family pressure. He's explained to everyone that the issue isn't just about the money, but about Jessica's complete lack of respect for our property and her refusal to take responsibility for her actions. He's also pointed out that Jessica has a pattern of reckless behavior followed by expecting everyone else to clean up her messes, and that maybe it's time for her to face some real consequences for her choices. I've gone back and forth about whether we made the right decision. On one hand, $3,000 is a significant amount of money, and Jessica did deliberately destroy something irreplaceable that belonged to me. The fact that she refuses to acknowledge what she did wrong or show any genuine remorse makes it hard to just forgive and forget. If we let this slide without consequences, what's to stop her from doing something similar in the future? On the other hand, Jessica is young and still learning how to make good decisions. Cutting off her college funding could have long-term impacts on her education and career prospects that might be disproportionate to her crime. I also worry about the damage this is doing to Mark's relationship with his family, and whether healing those relationships will be possible even if Jessica eventually apologizes and pays us back. The dress itself is completely unsalvageable. We took it to several professional cleaners and restoration specialists, but they all confirmed that the combination of wine stains, tears, and other damage made it impossible to repair. Even if we could fix some of the problems, the dress would never look anything like it did originally. We've had to accept that it's gone forever, which still makes me incredibly sad when I think about it. Jessica did eventually get a second job and start making small payments toward the $3,000 due debt, but at her current rate, it will take her over 2 years to pay us back completely. Mark has said he might consider unfreezing part of the education fund if she shows genuine remorse and makes consistent payments. But so far she's continued to maintain that she did nothing wrong. Whole situation has made me much more cautious about what I share with Mark's family and what I leave accessible when they visit our home. I've also become more aware of Jessica's entitled attitude and her tendency to take things without asking. Other family members have since told us stories about Jessica borrowing their belongings without permission, though none of those incidents involved anything as valuable or sentimental as my wedding dress. Looking back, I wish I had been more careful about protecting something so precious and irreplaceable. I should have kept the dress in a safety deposit box or some other secure location where Jessica couldn't have accessed it. But I also don't think it's unreasonable to expect that guests in our home won't go through our personal belongings and take expensive items without permission. The family relationships are still strained, though there have been some small signs of progress. A few of Mark's relatives have privately told us that they think Jessica got what she deserved, even if they haven't said so publicly. Mark's parents are slowly starting to acknowledge that their daughter's behavior was inappropriate, though they still think our response was too severe. Jessica herself seems to be maturing somewhat under the pressure of having to support herself financially. Her grades have improved as she's learned to balance work and school, and she's apparently developing better money management skills out of necessity. However, she still hasn't given us a genuine apology or taken full responsibility for what she did. I honestly don't know if our family relationships will ever fully recover from this incident. The trust has been broken not just between Jessica and us, but between Mark and his parents, who expected him to prioritize family harmony over holding his sister accountable. Some bridges might have been burned permanently, which makes me sad because I used to enjoy spending time with Mark's family. At the same time, I don't regret standing up for myself and refusing to just accept Jessica's dismissive attitude toward destroying something so precious to me. The dress represented more than just money. It was a symbol of love, commitment, and one of the most important days of my life. Jessica's casual destruction of that symbol, followed by her refusal to show any remorse, felt like an attack on my marriage and my most cherished memories. So was I wrong to let my husband freeze Jessica's college fund until she pays for the dress? I still don't know. What I do know is that actions should have consequences, especially when someone destroys other people's property and refuses to take responsibility. Maybe the lesson Jessica learns from this experience will make her a better person in the long run, even if it's a hard lesson to learn. And maybe sometimes protecting what's precious to you is worth the cost of family drama and difficult relationships.